Live from the Pathway Studios in Johnston proper. You are live from the Path.
We're donkeys here.
And you're listening to Live from the Path. We're coming to you from the Pathway Studios here in Johnston proper.
Hey, you seen that AI-generated art with the biblical scenes?
No.
I saw an article about that, but I didn't read it.
Okay. It's pretty cool. Like this AI-generated art, they're like, here's what you think angels look like. And they show a bunch of Renaissance paintings or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're like, here's AI-generated art. And these angels
Eyes and wings.
are epic. The dude with the wheel is super cool. Like, it's pretty boss. You should check it out.
Huh.
It's probably biblically inaccurate. Don't be like holding me
Right.
to some kind of theological point on this thing. But like these angels are epic for sure. And like the fire coming down,
Yeah.
like when when you lead them out of Egypt, that's cool.
Do not be afraid. It's
Yeah.
like, I think I'm going to be afraid.
I'd be afraid.
You were a terrifying, monstrous creature.
Okay, good. Way to kick it off. You're listening to Live from the Path. Here's what we got going on the show. We're just looking at Mike.
Just heavy.
Okay,
Heavy from Ben. Way to kick it off.
This is show 500 and a half.
Woo!
Yeah. So I don't know. I can't remember what happened. It wasn't great. Whatever happened last week, we recorded a show and then there were audio problems and anyway, we're just not we're not doing it. So I'm not releasing that one. Maybe
I remember Ben yelled at the room for having bad ideas.
the room deserved it. I'm gonna
Oh, I do remember that, yes.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna rescue that clip and send it out. But anyway, so technically, I feel like for what we're gonna release, this is show 500. And
Yay!
So, yeah, congratulations, everybody.
Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo!
Yay.
I wish I wouldn't have opened with that AI burner.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, that was a real 501 move there.
par for the course. Okay. Anyway, so let's. Here's what we got going on the show this evening. Wait, you had something?
Yes, I did have something.
Okay, what was it?
You're a killer.
It's a
Killer,
game.
Ben. Way to kick it off.
Oh yeah. Sorry, we talked for so long. We had technical problems, and so we've talked for so long. I forgot the stuff we were going to talk about. Okay, Troy has a new game. What's the game?
This game is New Age Christian Church or a weed store. I'm going to say a name of a place, and you guys have to tell me whether or not you think it's a weed shop
Woke or
or
weed?
you think it's a New Age church name.
This is gonna be great.
I driving across the country, you see a lot of names of both weed shops and churches, and then they start to blend together like
Especially in
billboards
Oklahoma.
in Texas. Like
Yeah.
it really is all the same thing. And so it just you start to realize, hey, that could be a church or that could be a weed shop.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna figure out if we can be discerning to figure out if the weed shop names are great or if the church names are rough or vice versa.
You didn't come up with like a catchy name?
Dan just had one.
What was it, Dan?
Woke or weed?
Woke or weed?
Woke or weed?
Woke or weed?
Woke
Woke
or
or weed?
weed.
Woke or weed?
I'm gonna be real honest with you. I
That's
have
not
no
great.
idea. I don't understand the definition of woke. I see
That's
it all.
ironic because we don't consider you woke. So it's
I don't
perfect.
know what that means at all.
Then you're
guess people
safe.
are
You're
like-
good.
People are like, you woke, and I'm like, I don't know what that means.
I feel like it's. I feel like it's okay for you not to know.
I'm. You don't have to tell me. I just know that like it's a phrase that I've seen 1,000 times, and I go,
Yeah,
I just can't be bothered to look
Yeah.
into it.
you're woke. You're woke. You know about the culture and the things that are right in the way in the world. Like old people sometimes still have some weird racism behind half the stuff they say. They're not woke.
Oh.
But if you're like a 18-year-old kid that really understands the intricacies of social understanding,
So almost
woke.
so everybody is asleep to the reality.
right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay,
Until
I-
you realize that,
yeah.
like, oh, actually, the drink you got at Starbucks was racist because you ordered black coffee.
Yeah. I don't want to be accused.
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah. It's akin to Dan saying you can be so open-minded that your brain falls out.
Yeah.
It's that.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, we're gonna get to woke church or weed. Woke church or weed store.
Yes.
Okay, I love it. We're going to do that. Also, I got a couple articles for you today. So, interestingly enough, there was an article in the Christian Post this week and said evangelism myth number 1: you have to build a relationship first.
Ooh, I've been thinking about this lately.
Okay, so we're going to hit that up, and then there's a new.
Can I spread the gospel and not have to know anybody? Thank you,
Yeah.
Lord.
This answer will be dangerous for Mike because then he's just going to take it as I could totally stand on a corner with a sign. I don't have to friggin' talk to anybody as long as it's the Lord I'm talking.
I'm gonna tell you this. I have been whatever I watch on or look at it on the Facebook. They think I really want to listen to street preachers, and like every one of these is not about a guy sharing the gospel. Every one of these is about the street preacher arguing with the police as to whether he can amplify his voice on the street corner. Like, and they're like,
I have every right to be here.
here's what's interesting is that like they're all headlined that like street preacher takes on police. And I'm like, what?
Well,
This is what we're talking about? Like,
He's panhandling. He's illegal.
here's the deal. I'm interested in the types of conversations guys like that get into. And frankly, they would show discussions with some people, and like they're pretty good. Like their apologetics work is pretty decent. Like it's interesting to hear random people and people's complaints about Christianity are always so shallow, right? You got burnt, but this is why the evangelism question is an interesting one, because they're going to tell me, hey, I don't have to have a relationship. Every one of these guys who are burned by Christianity are burned by relationships, and so. But interesting. It's just interesting that like there's a lot of people who like go to the mat to defend that the street preacher can go on there and that his religious freedom shouldn't be infringed, who don't really value the message nor live it out. They're more fighting it as a forum to say,
As a liberty issue.
yeah, take that, police. I'm like, again,
Police don't run us.
Can we get the right thing, you know?
Copper.
You know,
Hey, is it true that cop means constable on patrol?
I'm not sure, but you're responsible for Nathaniel, and that's two demerits for what he
I
said.
can't be responsible for that.
You sat next to him. That's your problem.
Fine.
You knew it when he walked in.
See?
Copper.
Yeah.
I carry
You'll never
the show
catch
and
me.
now
I'm the
I've gotta
straight
carry
preacher.
Nathaniel.
Doggone it anyway.
What? Robber. Really?
So, how
Oh.
much is a busking license? Would that
much for
save
you.
the street preacher?
No, the problem, the issues were around sound amplification. Like, it's one thing to preach out on the street corner. It's a second to bring a megaphone.
I feel like buskers bring amps though.
Well, they can. So, like, generally, there's like a decibel question.
Okay.
And normal conversation is X. You're generally allowed to be like, I don't know, 10, 20% above normal conversation.
Whisper into your megaphone, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, evangelism myth number 1. You have to, you have to build a relationship first. I hear it again and again. So many Christians think they can't share the gospel until they've built a strong friendship with someone over time and earned the right to be heard. They subconsciously bought Satan's lie that the power to save is in the strength of their relationship with the person they're seeking to reach.
When do we get a rebut?
It's not.
Oh.
Hold on. You gotta wait for his for the home run.
Okay.
The power is in the message, not the messenger. It didn't matter that Jesus said it. He didn't say that part. I ad-libbed. This is why the Apostle Paul described the gospel as the power of God that brings salvation to everyone who believes. Building a deep relationship with the unreached people we know is important. It creates opportunities to share the gospel naturally along the way, but many Christians end up waiting and waiting for just the right time that never actually comes. Of course, this doesn't mean we should be pushy, but we should be intentional with every relationship and every conversation. We should look for that natural fork in the road in every conversation to turn it towards spiritual things.
Oh boy.
This could come by simply, I'm going to find that I'm probably going to agree with this man more than I want to,
Yep.
and then disagree with him strongly on the other side of it. This could come by simply asking questions such as, is there anything I can be praying for you about, or do you happen to go to church anywhere? I've asked questions. That's not the gospel message. I've asked questions like these to open countless gospel conversations with friends and strangers alike. Some people start sharing their prayer requests or spiritual background right away. Others don't. Either way, I want to try to take the gospel conversation as far as it can go without unnecessarily turning that person off. But it's been my experience that most people are open to talking about God and their spiritual beliefs when approached in genuine kindness, authenticity, and humility. Of course, not everyone puts their faith in Jesus on the spot, but my goal is to, at the minimum, nudge them that much closer to faith in Christ.
Okay, so the messenger doesn't matter unless it's you. Is that what he's saying?
Okay, so let's start this way. What can you agree with this person about so far?
I think we do hold off on talking about spiritual things, like where God belongs in a conversation, where you would, like if I was talking to you fellas, I would mention God whenever God needs to come up, right? Like where he's at in my life, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, all that stuff. When I edit that out of my conversations with other people because I know they're not Christians, I think that's doing them a disservice.
Okay.
Yeah, the message of Jesus, the good news of the gospel can be told to a complete stranger. There's power in it. There's
Okay.
absolute power in the message of the gospel.
Okay, good. I would say I would agree that most people are open to talking about God and their spiritual beliefs when approached in genuine kindness, authenticity, and humility, but like not in the context of rando. Like I'm not sure. I think there has to be something there, but I do. I do think that we sometimes work off a presumption that people are closed off to something that they're not necessarily closed off to. We just presume that, and so behave as if that's the case. And I think that does otherwise stop people from sharing or hearing the gospel, because we kind of presume that they had it all figured out. And I think vast majority of people obviously haven't put that much thought into it.
The messenger definitely matters, right? Like Paul was a huge example, right? Like God said, I'm going to show you what I'm going to, the things that you're going to sacrifice for this, right? Like, and people were astonished by him when he showed up. Aren't you the guy that was dragging everybody to jail? Weren't you the guy that stood by and watched Stephen get killed? Weren't you that guy, right? And then for him to say, brothers, listen, this is the deal, and then share the gospel with them. Like, it matters that it was Paul. It totally does matter. Like in people's either the story of the thing that God has got you through, or the relationship that you currently have with people, right? That is your actual in. That is the way the conversation will happen. Like that's why the street preacher route is so tough, right? Like you're like, you tell me all these things, like I'm gonna like turn or burn, or I've got to hand my life over to Jesus. You don't even know me. You don't even know what I'm involved in. You don't know what I've been through, and you're like, great, I would love to know you, because God wants to deal with all those things, right? But like, it only starts to matter to people when it gets down to a relationship level, and you can't actually speak into their lives if you don't know them at all. Now, you can just straight up preach, though, right? Because that's the thing, is like if you look at the book of Acts, right, they're just going from town to town, but they go to a synagogue where preaching is meant to be most of the time, right? They start in the synagogue and they preach, and then like when they do preach, like it's Paul tunes his message to the people that he's talking to, right? So there still is aspects of relationship in there. It's not just like a cold delivery and, well, I gave you the facts, I'm out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, like even Paul was spending a lot of time with those people and like building those kind of relationships to be able to have those conversations, though, right?
Yeah, that's what discipleship is.
Right.
I mean, we're called to make disciples. We're not called to make converts, and that's a different philosophy. But everything we're called to do is to disciple people, which requires some sort of relationship. It's Jesus said, "Follow me," and he had guys follow him for 3 years, and I mean, it wasn't like, okay, you got 10 minutes, you're done. I got a new group tomorrow.
Yep.
It was continuation.
Do you think we err on the side of not bringing it up? Is that what he's trying to get to?
Yeah, I think there is something right about that. That like we get, we kind of stink at the discipleship piece, and then we're afraid of the what he would call evangelism piece. I think it's unnecessary to make some distinctions in there. We just need to be better disciple makers, and recognize that it's a process to make disciples. Like how you get to know them. You're not hiding the fact that you're a Christian. I think this is some of the things where I've taken issue in, if it feels like churches are not up front with what they believe because they're waiting for the right time to spring it on you. I feel like you're also a bad friend / human to do the same thing. Like if you're a follower of Jesus and it would naturally come up, it should naturally come up. And so, like, don't be disingenuous with folk, because I do. Here's the risk, and this tends to be in certain like Christian circles. But like, I think you do, you point them to what you win them with, and so like because we have a disciple-making issue, we have a depth problem within the church. People are getting information, and then they're bailing because they didn't actually meet relationship King Jesus. They got a set of facts that seemed compelling at the moment, and then they got competing facts, got confused, and bailed. And so, like, I like the effectiveness and long-term following of Jesus, where people are, like, sticking in and out of lives with accusations and kind of what they feel like good news. I think it has done that with people, but, like, that's anecdotal. Like the permanence in relationships of people who come to Christ not through some sort of relational perspective, but instead as a set of facts that's been handed out to them by a stranger. I'm like, it happens, but I don't know if that's the broad story of the gospel, nor is it how God has interacted with every other person that brought his message. Prophets, Jesus, pick one. Humans interacting with other humans with messages from God or on God's behalf. That's implicitly relational. Otherwise, he would just write it in the sky.
I was going to say, there's like Philip and the Ethiopian eunuch, and then maybe 2 or 3 other stories where it's like run up to the dude, get the story of Jesus, get baptized, and the Lord just takes him away. Philip teleports.
Even that was relational, though. Think of the eunuch is reading scripture and he's going, how can, like, someone needs to explain this to me.
Right.
He didn't just go like, like
On the road.
right. Well, to this point, he didn't read Isaiah and go, "I understand all of this." That the preaching is relational in that way, and so like I understand what he's fighting for, and I think we need a push in some of these areas. I would just be cautious on separating that. I agree that the message is powerful, but God chose messengers in this way. And so I'd be cautious about what it looks like for us to just basically gospel dump, throw dead cats over walls and goes, I hope it works out.
And it depends on what your aspect, what you think the gospel is, right? Like, that's a great question to ask somebody, especially Christians, like, what do you think the good news actually is?
Mm-hmm.
But like, God chose messengers to even deliver that to us, right? Like, the book of Matthew's crafted, right? It's not just a straight recording of like 2 days worth of stuff, right? Like, it's crafted. The stories are put together for a reason. Same with the book of Luke and Mark. Like, the whole Bible is put together by humanity through the power of the Holy Spirit, right? And so, like, messengers are still crafting the way that you're taking in the gospel.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's not just and I don't think he's proposing that. Like a bland, just drop off of the gospel and run. But still, it is all relational. It is all tuned to the audience, right? It's why you have 4 gospels, right?
Yep.
Like, they're written towards different people for different reasons.
You also the variable of how much time you're spending with someone doesn't necessarily have as much weight as just loving on people. Like, you can love on somebody hardcore in a 30-minute conversation, and they can feel the love of Jesus from that and then see that there's some real stuff to it. The same way you can love on somebody by, showing up and being a pen pal for somebody for 10 years, or always being at the homeless shelter when the same guy comes in and making certain he's got deodorant, right? Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be it's only a short amount of time or it's only a long amount of time. It's just like you keep bringing love. And also, you're not the only person that God may have talking to that person. Like, you may be the one hit where you run into Jerry and you love on Jerry. You make sure he's got food and, give him a shirt off your back, whatever. And then Jerry runs into 15 more people over the next 10 years. And God's just orchestrated it all to where every one of those little quick hits was someone realizing, dude, my life has been rough, and one of the only constants that has existed is my terrible choices and people of Jesus loving me. Like, those are the only 2 things that have been constant in this whole deal. Like,
Yeah. So I think that's one of the key focus areas here. Then is like just don't be disingenuous about it.
Right.
Like,
yes,
if you got a half an hour, like be you. And like I do think sometimes we pull back on sharing good news about Jesus because we're worried about what it's going to do. I think we got to let some of that go. Like, we've talked about this, I think, a ton, but like, I just don't think it's the Christian's job to psychoanalyze everybody. I think the good news is universal. I think the themes of what God is after, people generally do recognize. I think they struggle, like, what it means to them, I think, is a relational issue. But like, I really don't think people are going to be traumatically affected if you try to present the gospel wrong, unless you try to look at them and go, well, a little dash of this, a little dash of that, so let me see what hits them. Like, just be yourself, let the gospel be what it's going to be. But I would say it probably is occurring more naturally than we're allowing it to, because I think we are holding it back, and I think that's a risk.
Well, a lot of our worry about the whole we have to build a relationship with somebody before we can do this may be because, well, what if they like just freak out about the message because it angers them or whatever, when most of the time the anger that they feel towards Christianity or towards God and stuff like that may rarely be actual anger towards God. It may just be towards people that suck, that have claimed to represent him for a long time.
Yeah.
And again, like you said, it's not our job for psychoanalysis there. Like, we don't need to look into the traumas of their life and go, oh, you dealt with this as a 15-year-old and a youth pastor, and when you were 22, you went to a church and they kicked you out, blah, blah, blah. There's still there's still power in the message of God in a one hit, just the same way as there is power in the message of God building that relationship with somebody.
Yep. He continues, I remember a speaker once lecturing me at a youth leader event, explaining to me how evangelism didn't work in the current culture. A crowd gathered as he went on and on, telling me that people weren't open to hearing about Jesus unless a long-term relationship had first been built and firmly established over time. While I agreed that we must build relationships with people, I told him it's weird to bring Jesus up later in the relationships, not early on, that it's a bit disingenuous to do so. Okay, I agree with that part.
Surprise!
Yeah. Well, but that's
Jesus.
Right. That's an unhealthy suppression, not necessarily an
I
aggression.
think suppression's the right word, right? Like, there ain't nobody that I've ever met that doesn't know I love Jesus. Not nobody.
Right.
And I'm not walking around going, bless you, my son. right? How can I pray for you today? He is risen. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, hey, can you go grab that wrench? You know what I'm saying? But like, there's just a way that you carry yourself, the way that you interact with people, the way that you talk, the way that you look at the world. It should be really obvious that you love Jesus, right? You have to be hiding that.
Yep.
This little light of mine. You know what I'm saying? You're putting it under a bush.
And here's the deal: to try and teach from the flip side, I've absolutely been the person that has hidden it completely. There have been so many people in my life that had no idea I knew Jesus. I was a bouncer for years. I've been a DJ in bars. I've done all that stuff. I've been in some really rough spots. I've been in crappy places and strip clubs, all that crap, man. Not a single one of them knew that I loved Jesus. And you can bet that if I ever decided to flip on and try and talk to them about Jesus, I looked like a fool. I looked like a flat idiot, the most fake, bullcrap Jesus that I was trying to peddle. They just didn't believe. You can't talk to somebody that you met up at a strip club and you've been buddies for 2 years, and then out of nowhere, when you decided to flip yourself around, go, by the way, this whole time I have actually loved Jesus.
Yeah.
I didn't show you that because we've been in sin together.
I was
And
undercover.
I was undercover. Surprise! Like it is the genuine nature of how you live this that has power.
Yeah, right.
Here. I screwed that up. God didn't mess that message up. I did.
Yeah.
My sin made that not possible. It wasn't that God's message wasn't strong enough to talk to the dude. If I would have went into a bar, tried to be a light there, and done something real and been an honest Jesus man in that situation, God could have frickin' punched through that. Now, he still can, but I hindered my own ability to talk to people about Jesus because I was in that sin.
We don't run stings, right? Like there's no we're up front about the gospel, right? Like we're up front about the good news of Jesus Christ. Like
Better
you're
be.
never in an undercover sting where you reveal it later. You know what I'm saying?
DEA, I love Jesus.
So he said, what we said actually, he said, after all, you naturally talk about what you love. And if we truly love Jesus, we can't help but talk about him early on. Okay, agreed. I also pushed back on his assertion that you can't just talk about Christ to random strangers you may encounter in everyday life. Okay, here's a big one. I pointed to Jesus and the Samaritan woman. Within a minute of meeting her, he had segued the conversation into a spiritual one. In a matter of minutes, she was on her way back to town to share her testimony with her fellow Samaritans. I will caution that Jesus cheats.
Yep, that's what I was thinking. Jesus
After
cheats.
he deduced her entire life and
Right.
told her things no one should know.
Yeah. Did you know that I know about all the adultery that's going on in your
Don't
life
you
and
think
all
that
this
was the
different
big part of the seller? The fact that he goes, I know that you are not with your husband right now. In fact, you have all these husbands.
And think about that. That's
knowing you, I
earthly
love you.
relational. That's I know something about
Yes.
you that
Yeah.
opens up
Yeah.
your, like that is not
Only
just
the creator would know that stuff without that background and like months of figuring it out. She's not going to give that information up.
right. Bad reference.
I love you in spite of all this stuff.
As
Well,
this
I know
speaker
all
and I bantered back and forth, a crowd of youth leaders grew. They were locked into our conversation because they had felt the same tension in their hearts when it came to evangelism. I finally said, okay, I have a challenge for you. Let's you and I go out to the streets of Pittsburgh, where we were, and just talk to people for an hour about Jesus. I'll do all the talking. You can stand by my side and silently pray for them. We'll see how willing people are to talk about Jesus. It was a flat-out dare, which was fitting because I'm okay, I don't care. He's going to prop his ministry.
Yep.
The youth leaders gathered around us, starting chanting, do it, do it, do it. Oh, this sounds like a real frat house.
Wow.
Hey, after this article, we'll talk about why people don't want to be part of your evangelism ministry.
But this leader was not willing to put his theory to the test.
And then everyone was clapping.
Okay, I've evangelized friends, family, neighbors, and strangers for 45 years. Some I had a relationship with. Others I met on a plane, in a gym, or at a restaurant and engaged them in a conversation. I'm not disagreeing with this actually at all. But that's like they're natural conversations.
Yes.
Jesus told us that our primary mission is to go and make disciples of all nations. This assumes that we take the initiative. Are you? Are you praying for an opportunity to share the gospel every single day? Are you seeking to turn your everyday conversations toward Jesus? If not, start today. I actually don't disagree with that either.
Right.
I think we should be doing that.
Yes.
For help in sharing your faith and love, check out my 5-minute crash course on how to share the gospel with anyone, anywhere, at any time.
That's
and
me.
he
And
runs
if you wanna donate
daretoshare.org.
afterwards, go ahead.
The hard work is presenting the gospel to somebody and then helping them realize what that looks like in their life. Right? That is a lifetime worth of behavior and a lifetime worth of understanding, like new perspective. It's not even new, a grander and deeper perspective of what this relationship looks like, right? Tell me that you found a guy that you told him who Jesus was and what the good news is, and then you walked with him as he went through stages of life. That, my friend, that is some discipleship making, right? Like I'm not saying that he's not, like, I think Ben's right. Like we're saying that like if you're under the impression that a long-term relationship has to exist before you bring up Jesus, then you're suppressing the good news in your life. That's foolish. But like it's super easy to dump the gospel on people and then walk away, right? And maybe you're not in charge of like walking hand in hand with 1,000 people as they get to know Jesus, but like that's where the work is. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I can read Acts and then go out and preach right now and just nail like and look at the way Stephen did it and Paul. They both just retold the Old Testament. That's how they present the gospel to people. They're like, here's what happened to us, and then here's Jesus. He showed up as promised, and then we're free of all this.
Because
Business.
they've heard those stories every day.
Right? What do you
forever.
think? Like, what a relational approach. Like, it's a quick relationship. Like, but here's what we have in common.
Yep.
We're all claiming to be Jews. So here's the deal, and then he nails it. So I think it's, I don't know, it feels like evangelism just for evangelism's sake, right? Not practical, looking people in the eye, knowing them, and letting the gospel impact their life.
Yeah, he's kind of missing the point that like maybe Paul shows up and preaches, but then he hangs around for 3 years.
Yeah.
Right, comes back
and
when
there's
he
a
can.
church. Yeah,
And
then
sends Timothy if he can't.
Yeah, he's
exactly.
in Ephesus
He's
in Ephesus forever.
Okay.
The Bible gives it like a paragraph.
Here,
Yeah.
I'm giving you Aphrodicus because I can't be there, but here you go.
Right. So
Philippians,
I mean, you present the gospel, but you do it in the context of relationship of I don't want to say doing life together. That seems so cliche, but of being involved in a person's life.
Yes.
And a gospel just comes out because that's what you believe. You're a Jesus person, so you don't, and it's not gimmicky. Sometimes the evangelism feels gimmicky to me. Here's my quick 5-minute, get these tips, and you're selling something. It's like you're not selling anything other than, hey, do you want to have a better life?
Yes, that's right.
Do you want to have all your sins forgiven? Yeah. Do you want eternity? Yeah. Do you want everything God wants for you? Well, yeah. Well, hang out with me. I'll show you.
Right. Yeah. I think that's the well, and it's very difficult to judge whether people. It's the same issue with like some we talked about earlier, just like church gatherings. Like, are we winning them toward a healthy, deep commitment to a King Jesus and a good news that actually changes your life, or are we looking for moments where we talk to him for 5 minutes and then like we feel, oh yeah, I shared the gospel, they accepted Christ. I'm like, it's actually, what makes me uncomfortable is you go to Christian concerts and like they'll go, yeah, we were just in Wisconsin and like 38 people gave their life to Jesus, and like maybe they did, but like I'm just so cautious about creating people. It feels harder to me that once someone says yes, they get on a high about it and then they bail. It feels like it's twice as hard to reconnect them back to Jesus.
It's like I tried that.
Yeah,
It
wasn't
didn't
that-
work. Yeah.
Wasn't that the same thing they did at Pentecost, though? Like, didn't Pentecost happen and then they immediately go, like, we counted 10,000 of the number towards Jesus?
yeah. So what's interesting though is that like the culture is different because their Pentecost was Jews. Right, like they're
Right,
talking to a
yes.
bunch of gathered Jews
Yeah.
who are like they have
The
foundations.
law is no longer crushing you.
But think of it, they have foundations of already serving and loving Yahweh.
Yeah.
This was something that opened their eyes to who Jesus was and what it meant for their future. But you weren't starting from scratch.
Okay.
They didn't have to be. You're not
Right.
retraining
Yeah.
against the world.
And then they hung out from day to day in the temple courts and continued
Right,
teaching
right.
Yes.
until the great persecution, and then as things started spreading.
Is
So
there not to be contentious here, and I don't think I'm being. I'm just maybe I'm showing a little bit of like biblical stupidity, immaturity.
Yep.
But like, is this not a conversation for like there are different parts of the body of Christ, and then there's like different gifts that people are given that like you may be just the dude that shows up and talks one day, and then the Lord has other workers
Oh,
that
yeah.
can be like, okay, well, I preached, now you're a part of this. We got teachers who are going to continue to build you up, and we got people that are going to, speak into your life and help you here and prophesy what you're doing and stuff like that. Like, is this not a yes and situation as well in that light?
Yeah. So I think that we talked about that. I think in relationship to traveling evangelists.
Right.
Similarly. And like I think it is the difficulty is that like did you assign yourself the role? Right? Did you say I'm the
Right.
traveling preacher and that's what God has me doing? Thus I'm not responsible for the depth. Because like who's not going to sign up for the I just say the thing and the glory that comes with the loud
That's easy
microphone.
living.
Take
Right,
the
but
offering
does
and
God
head out.
not do that with some people?
Well, so think of it. If to his point, Jesus says, "Go forth and make disciples," except for Chuck. Chuck just gets to go and not have to make disciples. He just gets to like dump words on people. Now, do I think it's okay for to be traveling evangelists? Yes, I do. I think they're encouraging. It's just like I think missionaries like here to there to here are encouraging to people, and I think that's all right. But here's the question: if there are differences in that among people, who was that person to then look at me and go, "Hey, you should be doing more of my gift"?
Yeah.
I couldn't
Okay.
presume that.
Right,
And
yeah.
so it's the question is that, like, if I have to default to something, I'm going to take Jesus' words at its holistically and say, I'm supposed to make disciples. Is it possible that God has carved out certain people for limited engagements in things like that? I think it's possible, but I'd be real cautious about trying to get other people to take that role through my prescription versus the prescription of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, no, agreed. I don't think that should ever be the situation. You should do all things through prayer and allowing God to appoint things in our lives and stuff like that. So
Yes.
yeah, no, agreed. I was just thinking through that, and I was reading Corinthians. I think it's 1 Corinthians.
Yeah.
And I just started thinking about like the different gifts that people are given and the different parts of the body and stuff like that. Like, is that part of this conversation as well? To say that some people do that kind of work, and then some people are teachers, some people do this stuff, some people are this part of the body.
Yeah, I don't think either any of those things coming from Paul would restrict it to what this guy's talking about.
Got it. Okay.
But here's the thing: I do think we have to contend with certain revival movements where like they're just people preaching,
Right.
straight up preaching. But those are the same movements of which I have a caution of.
Right.
How deep is it? Did it persist, or did we sell it? But did we invite people into a moment that they got caught up in, and then it didn't
Yeah. What's the
stick
follow up?
because it didn't feel like real life anymore. It was a vacation. It was a vacation from a reality that re-hit them without the foundation of who Jesus
It's the
is.
same reason I have difficulty with the whole going off and doing a conference kind of thing, because I can remember countless times going to a conference and I'm embarrassed at how many altar calls I showed up to, and how many times I gave my life to Jesus and that stuff, because I had heard a really good worship set and man, those lights were cool. And then as a 13-year-old, I went, yeah, I'm on fire for God, and went straight back home and straight back to all the rough, and nothing changed. Like not a single thing changed.
But there are plenty of people who've done an altar call at a conference and like it changed their world. It's just where I remain humble, I think, in this area, but I think it's right to recognize the caution.
Yeah.
Mike, I want to appreciate what you just did.
I missed.
All right, cool.
But even like I said before, like you got the Apostle Paul. He's an evangelist type of guy, going from church to church planter.
Yep.
But he set things up, and like
Right,
you
yes.
mentioned, yeah.
Uh-huh, yep.
Bring in Timothy, bring in this. Okay, he didn't just
Yeah, I was there.
fast
with
car
you.
and get out of town to the next one. He stuck around, did some discipling, trained people, set up elders.
Checked up.
Everything happened, yeah, and then it was a healthy church,
Right.
and then he had to check back later. Hey, you're not
I'm
so
writing
healthy,
this
you
letter
know.
to you because I've been told what you've been doing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the second I can, if I'm out of these chains anytime soon, I'm going to come to you again.
Yeah,
in my
yeah.
absence, here's Timothy.
As opposed to the evangelist who's like, yeah, we did a concert and 38 people raised their hand and now we're gone. I have no idea who they were,
Right.
you know.
They
and
added our
I never
band page
will.
on Facebook.
Yeah. So that we've cheapened it, and that's where
I
get
think we have
concerned.
cheapened. Here's the thing that's easy to grasp about Paul's ministry, and what's harder to grasp modern day is like no matter what the situation, Paul's ministry will continue, right? Like if no one tithed that night, Paul goes, no problem. If Paul took a beating and got put in jail, he's like, this is no problem at all, right? Like
right.
his ministry continues. When people stop showing up to the traveling evangelist, they're like, I think it's time for me to get out of this. Or if like there's not enough money to fund the band, then it's
Right.
time to, or we can't find the right venue, it's time to quit.
God must not be in this anymore.
God, not
because we
right.
don't
That's
have
right.
money
God's
for the
on his
gas.
way out. Now, granted, our economy is different. Like our modern age does work differently, so you can't completely discount that. But like, Paul will go to the next town by himself, or he'll go to the next town with 5 people, or he'll go to the next town on the back of a donkey, or he will crawl his way there with lashes on his back. Like, it doesn't matter what comes up. Paul will be delivering the gospel to somebody in some fashion.
Now, I think that thought then does support the trajectory of what this man is asking, which is to say, like, are you approaching all your relationships and looking at things as opportunities to otherwise share good news with people. And I do think we need to blow up our reservation about it. And I don't know, Dan, I think this came up when we were talking about the last time you got back from Zimbabwe. You know, like these guys were just walking around like looking to have conversations in ways that I think probably doesn't work here. I think that might actually be somewhat true. But like it's just curious, like is this guy's attempt to try to engage with people with Jesus better than my attempt at nothing? At my non-attempt to even, because I'm worried about what someone's going to think, or like, hey, if I approach this the wrong way, is it going to tie it off and say, well, that's an aggressive Christian and I don't want to do it. But here's the thing. If we can approach it naturally, speak it a bit in the right proportion of which you would normally speak about things, and don't be, you make people feel, here's the thing, you make people feel used. If they can tell when you walk into a conversation that you're just biding your time until you get to pitch them your religion. And like, I'm confident that Jesus's tact for the world isn't like treat them like a commodity. Mm-hmm. And so, but it doesn't mean that, you know, within 10 minutes of there's all kinds of people I know within 10 minutes of conversation, it'll come to Jesus because that's what they're normally talking about every 10 minutes. All right. And so like, I think the prayer here is, Lord, can you help me fashion my life where like I pray without ceasing? And I do not suppress anything that you might have coming out of my mouth or into my mind, and help me walk in boldness in those things without fear of how it hits the world, because the world needs to change under your goodness. I think if we want to focus under that, I think that's right. And I think that creates some of what this guy's saying without it feeling so freaking fake.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like the phrase is like, I know nothing but Christ crucified, right? That's what I know. And like doesn't mean that you literally don't know anything else. It just means everything you look at is colored that way. Like it's the source of everything that you have and everything that you have to offer. Yeah. And so like, yeah, your life it should say that on its own.
I love hitting my boss with that.
What?
He'll ask me a question like, "Hey, did you do this? Blah blah blah. Did you email this guy?" And I'll say, "I know nothing but Christ crucified."
Have you legit done that?
Yeah, I do it all the time.
So
I love doing it.
Do you want to know what we're talking about here? That is not genuine, is what we're talking about. Like if that is the extent of your no, I'm just messing with you.
Way to go, Nathaniel.
I mean, that's not evangelism. I just love doing it because it's funny. I read this story about this fella, or maybe I watched a video. I don't remember. It's been a minute. It was this big old tall bald guy, and he, for whatever reason, I'm kind of piecing this together from memory here, but he was in the air a lot. He was flying around from town to town, doing conferences or something. But I don't think it was like Jesus conferences. I think it was like some sort of basketball thing or something like that. But he was a Jesus man. And so he claimed that he started each day with a prayer that God would use him however he would be used that day. And he was a big fan of sharing the gospel with people in the airplane because he's like, well, what else am I going to do it? You know, I'm traveling all the time, and I've got people sitting around with me for 4 hours at a time, so might as well share it then. And he seemed like a pretty rad dude. And that seems like kind of something that might be up this here alley, where it's like, if you're legitimately traveling all the time and you're trying to, you know, spread the gospel, then this might be up this particular fella's alley.
Yeah. Yep.
You could do it at the Get and Go. Like you can have these kind of conversations at the random gas station you go to buy that Pepsi way too much. Like if you start living your life where everything is just bathed in prayer and kingdom living, kingdom work is your goal, this kind of stuff is going to happen. Like, it's awesome. When I feel like I'm at my best, when I'm actually walking in step with the Lord and being led by Him, like this kind of stuff just happens. Like when I'm living in fake sin or in real sin and fake Christianity, that's when I struggle and go, well, I'm scared of this situation and all this different stuff. Like it's friggin', it's light and salt. You change the nature of the places that you're in when you live this way. Like salt makes crap salty. Like it cannot be the same in the presence of that.
Why did you say light and salt though? That's disorienting.
What do you mean?
Instead of salt and light.
Yeah, that's weird.
Oh, sorry.
It's perverse.
Jelly and peanut butter sandwiches.
Yeah, that's not how the Latin covered it.
Anyway, you are meant to change the situations that you're in. Darkness doesn't live where the light is.
Don't go to the Get and Go though.
No, that's the devil's town.
I tried to murder Nathaniel over at the Come and Go.
Yeah,
And
come and go for sure.
It didn't work out.
Come and go, bought out.
Less than half of born-again Christians believe Jesus lived a sinless life on earth.
Sweet.
Is that surprising to anybody? Like, of all the theological things where people have contention, was Jesus sinless for a born-again Christian? Seems to be like, I mean, what do we believe? We should just start doing these surveys with like, here's like 10 things. Which of these things do you actually believe in?
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Is this a new article, Ben?
Yeah.
I missed it. Sorry.
Yeah. Since the COVID-19 pandemic began in 2020, fewer born-again Christians now say that Jesus lived a sinless life during his time on earth. Am I supposed to connect these two? In the presence of COVID, they're like, you know what? I think Jesus was a sinner.
Now this thing is a problem. Jesus definitely didn't live
I mean,
perfect.
by definition, are you a born-again Christian if you think...
That's kind of one of the main things you got to get in line with.
I mean...
What do we think the good news is?
Right. None of it makes sense if Jesus was a sinner.
By the
Like,
way,
it just flat out doesn't work. The law can't be fulfilled through him. He can't become a curse that actually makes anything happen. He can't be a sacrifice that covers all sin because he's just another blemished sheep.
He's
Like,
just a
it
good
just
guy.
doesn't work.
he's bar Jesus. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Don't let me forget, after this article, I thought of 4 sidebar questions during our last discussion. And
Okay.
I really want to know the answer.
All right. The findings came from the American Worldview Inventory 2023, an annual tracking study of the worldview of U.S. adults involving 2,000 people. While born-again Christians make up about 1/3 of all U.S. adults, that's interesting. I thought it was more than that, and are considered the backbone of local church activity because of their higher level commitment to the Christian faith. The study shows that between 2020 and 2023, the share of those who say they believe Jesus did not commit sins during his lifetime on earth fell from 58% to 44%. I don't understand this.
I also don't trust the statistics in general.
It's a weird thing to have changed. Like if you say, like someone says, look, I think I'm more likely to understand if someone goes, look, I don't think there is a God. I get
Right.
that changes, but like I think Jesus might have sinned while on earth. Like I don't understand what is causing this problem.
Probably Tiger King.
Yeah.
That's what happened
In
during
the
COVID.
presence of the COVID-19 pandemic and the existence of a Netflix show, it really threw off born-again
I
Christians.
mean, even before that, batting in the 50s, it's not good.
No,
I'm
no.
never going to financially recover from this.
I think it's the. I mean,
Good morning, all you cool cats and kittens.
these are like narrow road numbers, and so I guess maybe I'm not surprised. But like now you're hyper narrow road because like these guys are trying to walk the path and going, yeah, I mean, I'm just another sinner walking behind a sinner. Like
Right.
I don't understand what
Yeah.
your faith is based on.
Lead me into the exact same thing I'm in, Lord.
Why do you actually? Next survey is like, why do you even want to claim to be a Christian?
Right.
Like, what is in it for you?
It's not popular anymore, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. It said the shift in belief among born-again Christians was among 6 that showed a significant decline in the past 3 years that Barna characterized as indefensible. Fewer than half of born-again Christians also now believe they have a unique God-given calling or purpose. I actually think that one's debatable. You can put that one higher for me, and I think it's all right. Like the uniqueness of their God-given purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think theologically you might even be in safe territory to be higher than that.
It'd probably be better for you.
Yeah.
We can't stop cranking out worship tunes that are focused on people individually.
Right.
Yeah,
I got 66 books that give me a pretty good idea of what I need to be doing anyway. So, like,
Holy Spirit, speak to me.
Yeah.
I wrote a book.
Lord, Wheaties or Raisin Bran?
Let's see. The share of those who held that belief fell from 88% to a staggering 46% during the pandemic. I don't understand the correlation. Maybe there isn't one. Maybe it's just
Maybe it's just the time period of the statistic.
yeah. A downward trend was also observed among those who say the Bible is unambiguous in its teaching about abortion. That belief fell from 58% to 44%. Those who say human
same
life
amount.
is sacred fell from 60 to 48%. Holy buckets. That's even non-biblically. This is a statistic. And the number of born-again Christians who say God is the basis of all truth fell from 69% to 63%. Here, I mean, I am curious as all get out to talk to like the 6% of people.
Right.
I'm like, what do you now believe? Like, what is it
changed?
that you went to? Yes, what drove it, but like, if God is not the basis of all truth, where is the basis of all truth?
Yeah, do you need an ultimate truth to follow this?
Or is there not one? And if there is not one, why do you believe any of the other things on the
Frickin'
list?
point.
Like, people are confusing. This goes back to Street Preacher. People have not thought through their worldview at all.
That's true. If none of this matters, which basically a lot of that stuff kind of falls down to like, why does it even matter if you don't believe that? Why don't we just friggin' party and life's gonna end eventually? Cool.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if Jesus were not God's son, if Jesus were not sinless, like I'm out. I'm out entirely. The
Yes.
whole thing is gone.
Yeah, the only empirical truth then is we die.
Yeah.
And he died.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Does this include the Catholics?
It's not no, born again Christians. I think Jen tends to exclude Catholics, but I don't know.
What is a born again Christian?
It's murky like evangelicals murky.
Yeah. Okay. All
Yeah,
right. I was like, aren't we all born again Christians?
Yeah.
Like, did anyone not go through the birth again?
Maybe the deal is
One of the
that
points.
during COVID, when they took this survey, everybody was home, except for the evangelists who were out there evangelizing. So they didn't answer the survey.
Friggin' ridiculous.
Right.
And
We
that
keep
kinda
running into
threw things
situations
off.
where Christians are in like dangerous situations, and then stuff just happens because of it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Stuff gets changed.
Huh.
Weird.
I didn't follow anything of what you just
I
said.
could tell.
Yeah.
What?
Stuff gets changed.
Dan was
I meant-
making sense, and then you cut in and said, I mean, absolutely
mean-
nothing for like 10 seconds.
Fair. What I meant is whatever. It's not worth it.
Okay, all right.
I'm willing to bow out.
When it comes to the general population of U.S. adults, Barta said the share of the population that claims to hold a biblical worldview fell from 6% to 4%. I thought it said fell.
4%.
Yeah, he said fell from 6 to 4. While less than half now claim to be deeply committed to practicing their religious faith. He found 33% of adults now say they attend church service during a typical week, which shows a decline, which represents the loss of about 15 million church-going adults each week. I don't care about that, actually. I mean, I do, but I don't.
How did this survey get to people?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
I
was-
didn't answer any questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Like, am I not a born again Christian that I wasn't given the survey
Nobody-
because I was alive at
You
that
guys were out
time?
evangelizing. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
That's
This
right.
sounds like it was asked on
missed
the
it.
coast. This sounds like an East-West Coast survey to me.
That sounds like a real Midwestern thing to say, Mike.
Yep.
This was done out on the coast.
Right.
Big old city living people, and that's talking about
Don't even get me
Christianity.
started on the entitlement of coast dwellers. I got a list.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe this is just
When was the
okay.
last time you saw corn, brother?
Mike, what were the 4 things? 4 sidebars.
1. Does Paul have a last name?
Of Tarsus.
I was just trying to think of Paul Robertson Ministries. You know what I'm saying? Like I was trying to make the point that like Paul doesn't let his ministry do the tail wag the dog. He just has at it. But I thought, what would be his blank ministry name? And it's just Paul Ministries.
I feel like last names didn't really become a huge thing until there was a lot of immigration and people moving around and stuff like that to where they needed to identify more than just in their town.
But you know what's interesting though is that like no joke, half the people in Jerusalem were named Mary. Like no joke.
Wow.
And Jesus was also Yeshua was a very popular
It's
name.
usually pretty close to 50-50 on male-female. That means like all of them were married.
There were Marys everywhere, right? And so like they needed a last name, and even if you said Mary of Nazareth,
Right. Which one?
there were probably still like 10 Marys, and Nazareth was
Mary
tiny.
of Nazareth over on 7th Street.
So was Jesus like Yeshua Josephson?
Yeah, they,
Joseph's.
yes.
I still don't think that happened for another 1,000 years.
I don't think they felt the need to scram it all together. Actually, here's what's interesting: is in Jesus's day, the people were a lot freer with language, right? Like it's okay to say Jesus bar Joseph or Yeshua bar Joseph, right? Like you would do that.
Gotcha.
Actually, yeah. Anyway,
Just imagining a census taker coming into town. Mary, here. Mary,
Right.
here. Mary, here.
Awful for a
Mary.
substitute teacher.
Here. Yeah, exactly. Which Mary are you? 2? Fantastic.
okay, yeah. And Paul's ministry is probably something like Paul or Apollos or Claude or Peter Incorporated.
Josephus.
Paul wouldn't even have it.
Yeah, Paul would just be like Paul, an apostle that is made low in front of you,
That's right.
coming to you from this city. It's like, oh, come on.
LL
Christ Crucified
LLC.
Ministries.
Yeah. All I know is I don't know my last name, but I knew no Christ crucified.
Okay, that's sidebar 1.
Sidebar 2. Is there any spiritual gifts you wouldn't want? Like
I'm terrified of teaching.
the Bible lays them out as gifts. Says they are gifts, and you read them and go, "Ooh,
I'm flat out
I
terrified
hope I
of
don't
teaching.
get that one."
I would not want tongues.
Yeah, I'm with Ben. That was the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah, I feel like I wouldn't, and but it's possible because like maybe I don't want it because I don't have it. Because Paul talks about it in positive terms. He's
Right.
like, I got it.
You could just speak to the Lord in angelic tongue.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he uses a lot in presence of the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit showed up, people started talking in tongues.
Yes. So I think that I also would be the calling on your life when you have the gift of prophecy makes me wildly uncomfortable. Because I know I shared this to some of you fellows already, but freaking Ezekiel, what is it, 2 or 3? Chapter 2, chapter 3, freaking watchman. And he says, look, you're a watchman, and I'm going to tell you, if I condemn a man and he dies in his sin because you didn't say anything, then his blood's on you.
Yeah.
That's terrifying too.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I'm saying. And so, like, I think in some respects that's for everybody, but in specific respects, that's for a prophet of God, where God chooses a man and goes, hey, you need to go share this thing. And he goes, I'm not going to do it. And God's like, I hold you responsible for his blood on your hands. And so, like, there's just a lot of weight to prophets, because I feel like you end up in a bunch of weird situations where you're like, dude, I hate to tell you, like, God said the following.
It's like,
and
you know fire's coming, right?
not to be in
like
your
a
grill,
lot of it.
but the Yahweh said.
I can tell you I've always scored high, like on the little test on the gift of faith, right?
Yeah.
And it's like I just believe God can do whatever the heck He wants. I have no doubt, and it's really frustrating at times because most people don't. So you're like, well, we should do this. They're like, well, we can't. It's like, I don't understand. You know, I mean, it's
why
just
not?
like I've spent my whole life trying to say, no, God's got this, and people are like, no, He doesn't. They're like, no, He really does, and He always does. So like, it's just frustrating. Like, people just kind of drag you down. You know, like, no, we really can't do this. They're dragging everything. It's like, let's not do this. It's like,
you cement
she's
shoes
a
on my
giant. How
face.
can I miss?
Get
right?
out of here.
I mean, come on. I've got these stones. Like, how can you miss Goliath? Right?
Dan's just walking around with a bunch of friggin' like wet jeans walking with him.
It's yeah. Sometimes it's just frustrating. Honestly.
Pull him down.
Anyway, that's it.
What is the what verse am I looking for spiritual gifts?
I think it's 1 Corinthians 13.
Well,
I tried to look it up, and they're like they have way more
Romans.
spiritual gifts than I thought. They're like 12, 7.
Romans
Some
12.
people
Yeah.
say 9.
12 of them.
I forget.
What, Mike, did you have one that you don't want?
Uh,
I mean, preaching, teaching, hospitality. Like, there's Paul's list. There's like 5. The one is it the one you're thinking of? Has got like 5 in it.
yes, yeah, and like.
Ephesians,
now
maybe.
It's 1 Corinthians 12.
But what's the difference between preaching and teaching?
Bingo. Signposts.
Sorry, what? Are you talking to somebody else?
What?
I'm talking to Nathaniel.
Oh, sorry. I was. Troy said Corinthians 13. Dan said 12. Dan was right. I was giving him the bingo fingers.
Oh, okay. I thought all I heard
Thank you
was
for bringing me low. I was excited that I was in the right book.
It sounded like you were making like a laundry list over there.
What?
Yeah. To each, so it's 7. To each is given the manifestation of the Spirit for the common good. For to one is given through the Spirit of utterance of wisdom, to another utterance of knowledge according to the same Spirit, to another faith by the same Spirit, to another gifts of healing by one Spirit, working of miracles, prophecy, ability to distinguish between spirits, various kinds of tongues, interpretation of tongues.
Ooh, the spiritual discerner. The discerning between spirits would be kind of a fun job. If you're like the oracle, and someone goes, "Dude, I heard this," and you're like, "Evil."
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's an immediate like rock'em sock'em robot.
Right. That is Beelzebul.
We should have a booth where people are like, I feel like the devil's really after me today, and you go, no,
He's not.
that's your choices. Yeah, your choices are behind you.
I mean, I feel like we can all pretty much do that.
My own self is on top of me today.
The devil's really after me. Oh, have you done this recently? Oh yeah, a bunch.
I
Yeah,
mean-
it sounds like you're after yourself.
Wisdom would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Knowledge.
difference between wisdom and knowledge. I love that.
Knowledge would be cool. Preaching, teaching, it falls in the same category to me. But like, yeah, that's all fine and good.
Yeah.
Prophecy, I wouldn't be. I know I don't have it. I'm not leery of it, but I know I don't have it. Because I know people that do. And so like I'm not saying I wouldn't want it, but yeah, the tongues thing. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I've seen tongues done very poorly, and I didn't feel of the Holy Spirit to me, and so I'm very leery of it. But I know people that speak in tongues that it is not that way for them, and so I'm leery of that one. I'm not on a like it's not a good thing, but like, yeah, I think I'd struggle with it.
Well, and that one's more personal, right? Like the way Paul talks about it is something that's personal versus like prophecy. You're going out and you're interacting with other people. Tongues tends to be reflected, I think, at least most appropriately bound by something that feels personal or requires. I've never seen anybody do talk in tongues and have someone interpret there. Never. I've
Like
not
out loud tongues?
Yes.
Isn't there like an inside your head tongues too?
Oh, I don't know. It's not happened to me.
Well, no, I thought that was called out as a different thing. Like tongues can be either like outwards and needs an interpreter, but tongues can also be speaking to the Lord and the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
Of like.
I don't know.
The one I'm more familiar with.
Is the one like within your head?
Well, not your
Yeah.
head. Like you talk out loud.
Yeah.
Right. But that's just a prayer language. Whatever. Like
Yeah, right. Like
That's
it's a
the
prayer
one I'm-
language between you and the Lord.
Which
I
I
think
think that's what Paul is talking about. Like
Mhm.
when he's there's multiple, but I think that when he talks about tongues as a personal gift for himself, and that feels like that one. I guess that's how I always read that
Mhm.
is something that was as private to him.
I don't
But-
think
Right.
I'd have a problem with prophecy, because what I think happens with the gift of prophecy is God tells you something that you're gonna have to yell at somebody about.
But yeah, I was gonna say it's just like we think future tense, but like that's
That's not
not,
what
I
no,
think.
right. Like a lot of people think future tense, not
Yeah.
us. Excuse me.
Yeah.
But like that's barely it. Like
What-
it's rarely future tense stuff. It's like, hey, this is the Lord speaking to you now,
Yeah.
like what you're doing currently.
Yeah. I feel like
I feel like
I don't like the sound of that.
I would rather have that than discernment.
Wait, the spiritual discernment?
No, because I wouldn't want to be involved in it. Like if it's a
Feels
prophecy
contentious.
saying, I don't have to go. I would like to discern what's going on here. I would like God just to go, here's what's going on here. And then I go, okay, I'll deliver it.
I'm proud of the confidence of the person who gets discernment as their gift and then acts on it.
Yeah.
Like, because you got to really be like, yep, the Lord told me that.
Especially because you know your
that was the
track
Spirit
record
speaking
of
to me
being
directly.
wrong, right? Like you're a
you
valuable,
suck.
broken human. And so like instantly when I feel like I've got something discerned where I'm like, "Ugh, this is the deal. I know it's the deal. And then I'm like, yeah, but you've been a boob
Right,
like most
yeah.
of your life. Remember that one time you were wrong? And then I'm like, oh man, I better weigh in later. I better see what's up.
Actually, I was thinking about, and I think about some of these the prophets who had to do the sign acts, right?
Uh-huh.
Like Ezekiel and stuff like that. When you're halfway through, like cooking your food on a freaking dried poop somewhere, and you're going, this better be right. This better be doing something. If I heard this wrong, I'd be really upset.
Right. Every time I feel like I've heard from the Lord, I second and third and fourth and 150th guess that and go, no, you idiot, that was you.
Yeah.
That was just the little friggin' voice in your head, and you just felt like you were at a place where the Lord might be talking to you, and so you went, yeah, Lord, I hear you.
This is how people end up doing like wild things, is because they have to choose something that they so think they wouldn't think of themselves. Like,
Uh-huh.
I'm supposed to serve the impoverished in Nepalese wearing a loincloth because I so don't want to do that. It must have come from
I
the
saw
Lord.
it in my dreams. It had to be from the Lord.
Because I wouldn't do it.
Right, yeah.
They eliminate themselves for anything that could feel like them, and so that's the stuff that they say they have to
But
do.
it is so connected to humanity, right? Like when Paul turns around and pulls a demon out of somebody merely because he's irritated with them following him around. Like the Bible is real specific. It's like, and Paul had finally had enough, and he turned around and said, "Come out of that woman," and pulled the demon out. And it is really connected to human fallibilities, and like the Bible does not paint a picture of like some like enlightened dude on a cloud, like spiritual gifting, right? It's way more gritty than that. Way more life stuff than that.
Yeah, actually, I think it's a really interesting thing that we got to be able to grasp, which is you can know prophets of God who have struggling marriages. You can know like people who discern and have wisdom from God, and then trip over something in the grocery aisle and fall on their face, or
Where's your sermon now, Bob?
right, like this. It's weird because what I want to say is that like God chose a perfect person to bring his perfect message, and like great, every T-shirt and meme says that that's not true. But tell me that once you hear someone who's got like God sent this person to do prophet type of work, I expect them to be nailing all the things that I'm not nailing because God is speaking to them. But like oftentimes God is saying, look, you go tell Ted this. Every other day of your life and time, I expect you to be responding to the Holy Spirit scriptures, and you're just not. Or you're struggling with it like a normal human would.
Interesting.
Okay.
Did you have two more?
Well, Dan, are you working on something over there, Dan?
Well, I was just looking
Facebook.
at the list, some of the
Okay.
gifts. Like I was thinking of the gift of mercy. It's like that's kind of a, I don't know.
I feel like that's all of us, isn't it?
Well, I mean, we're to have mercy, but some have the gift of mercy. In the Romans 12,
Yep.
It's like you're just like hanging around really depressed people, saying you're good, it's all right.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, it just seems
Interesting.
kind of
yeah.
like a downer.
Or even like the gift of
Real
like
strong to do that job.
hospitality is a good example.
Yeah.
Where like you figure, everyone should be hospitable.
Right.
But like I was thinking through it, and like that it wears me out. I'm not energized by that kind of thing. I
Yeah.
think I want it to be true at my house, but like I'm not motivated by it. Half my house is totally motivated by it. They love it. It gives
Yeah.
them energy, and so I think like it's a gift. I think I have to want that, and should it's sacrifice to make sure that happens. But it is not a gift of mine.
Yeah.
I,
Mike, your
yeah.
gift is not encouragement.
Our church
Yeah.
was born in our house, and so we had a couple of years of just, I mean, they like ragged our house, right?
Yep.
And to this day, like my wife, it's like she doesn't want anybody near our house. Like she does not have the gift, right? You know what I mean, she's
That's
just like,
awesome.
hey, can we come? No.
No.
Oh, that's funny.
So I'm like,
This is my safe space.
yeah, I was like,
It was invaded once, not again.
Well, I suppose when you have people walking around your house and you're trying to like go to the bathroom or something in your underwear, and you're like, hey, children, by the way, Ed's here.
Hi, Ed.
What? It's 2 in the morning.
I
Well,
pee
you
in my
know.
underwear, Ted. Back away.
Oh wait. Okay. Does that cover all your sidebars?
Paul's last name. Spiritual gifts that you don't want. Yeah, I lost the other two.
Okay, the other two are gone. All right. Thanks for hanging out with us so far on show 500 and a half. We very much appreciate it. Hey, where do we got this thing wrong? One, are you a street evangelist? I want to hear if you are, and you've done this. I'm interested in your experiences, but like specifically, I'd like to hear you speak about the long-term impact and how would you know? Like, is it possible? Like, maybe you can just help alleviate my concerns of shallowness, and maybe that's not the case. And I'd love to hear it. And so I'd be curious to hear that from you. Also, like, are you of the is it possible? Do you listen to this show and you think that Jesus was not sinless? I want to hear from you. I'm just curious.
We may have berated you earlier, but we really want to hear from you.
Like, help me understand. Help me. I just human to human. I want to understand what's going on in your mind. These two, like, if I believed the thing that you just grabbed onto, we'd be doing live from the Sin Shack. I just don't understand why I'm holding on to this Christian path
Live
business.
from the Sin Shack. That sounds like a very different
Debauchery
show.
tonight. Why not?
Live from Vegas.
Yeah, so, okay. Anyway, also, if you have comments and feedback on the show, again, Live from the Path complaint line, 515-517-0085. Call or text. We'd love to hear from you. Feedback about the show. Also, I want you to talk about your excitement about this new game show, Woke Church versus Weed Dispensary. Weed what? What was
Weed
it?
or woke? Woke or weed?
It's not close enough. It needs
Woke or
refinement. Okay.
I mean, yeah, I didn't try and name it.
Okay.
so.
How many do we have?
We've got 10.
Holy cats.
Oh,
I think they're going to go by quick, though.
it's gonna be good.
Okay. Does everyone get to vote? You get
Yeah.
to run the game.
Yeah, I'll run the game. Everybody gets a shot. We'll do
Okay.
this. We'll do the secular Solomon style. Everybody gets a shot. It's a 50% chance you get it right or
Do
not.
we get to inhale anything before we answer?
No.
Okay.
I'll keep score.
Wait, Dan's gonna pass out. Oxygen. Say he can do air.
Not like pure oxygen, though.
Yeah, whatever.
That'll also kill you.
He wants to take in normal atmosphere.
know.
You know, back before they came up with the drug, people were like, I'm on the oxy.
O2.
It meant you were taking in oxygen.
No, nobody
Taking
said
a hit
that.
off that tank
Yeah.
from Gideon.
Yeah, that's O2.
Thanks, Dan.
I'll take a hitter off that one.
Okay, fantastic.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, boys.
We're rough over here. We're having
Go
a
ahead.
conversation about whether or not oxygen will kill you.
a sack of
Yeah, it's only the 500 show, and you're having sidebar
You
conversations.
threw a bottle at the corner, Shaq. I don't want to
talked
hear it.
I talked to nobody.
minced garlic.
I'm on oxy.
Red potatoes.
No, I was talking about taking a hit off my son's oxygen tank.
Did you try that?
Oh yeah.
What?
Like-
that
like-
was weird. I thought you were kidding about that.
Was
you
that-
actually took a hit.
was
you
that
took
righteous?
a hit off it?
Yeah, I said I want to see.
Why?
I want to see what it's like. Plus, he's done with them, so I said,
So you went, Daddy's got some now.
I already paid for this.
How much of that
exactly.
do you got?
I've got like
You about to start peddling O2, Walter White? What's wrong with you?
I've got like 6 huge tanks of oxygen.
If
laying
you
around
see
my
any
house.
kind of meth lab happening around,
No, I was just feeling a little sleepy. I said maybe this will give me a little juice.
And it worked?
Oh yeah, big time. I was feeling good.
a hit of pure oxygen gave you energy.
I'm going to be honest. I want to do it.
Come on over.
Okay, I'm being adversarial here. I want to do it too. Like
Okay.
if I'm being real about
Yeah.
it.
Come on up.
All right.
I want
Can
to.
we call the game Left-Hander or Outlander? What do we think?
Did you just come up with something that rhymes?
Outlander
and then think
doesn't
that
make-
was right?
Yeah, new age church, Outlander.
Why is that an Outlander?
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and vote no on that. Maybe we can spend the rest of the 6 days we're not doing this show thinking about a title.
Sticky Leaf or Keep It Brief?
Again, all you're doing is rhyming things. Okay, all right. We're going to start.
I'm ready.
All right. Number 1.
Can I go first?
Toke or woke?
Toke or woke is the highest, no pun intended, the highest on my list right now.
Okay.
Toke or woke.
Okay, totally on the complaint line. What do we call this game? You guys, 515-517-0085. What do we call this game? Okay, go
Dan,
ahead.
you can't text in Toke or woke. We know your number. All right, number 1. We'll start with Ben just because he asked.
I want to go first.
Well-rooted. Do you think that is a weed shop, or do you think that is a church? New Age church or weed shop? Woke or Toke?
I choose Toke.
You choose Toke. Okay. Ben's in for weed shop. Dan, well-rooted.
We're going to go woke.
Oh,
You're going to go woke church.
Australia. Oh,
Secular
no. It's a
Solomon,
different game.
Australia. Epcot Center. Okay.
Oh, sorry. Toke, strip mall. Different.
Strip mall in Ohio. Toke. All right, Nathaniel. Well-rooted.
Woke.
Woke or Toke? Woke?
Yep.
Okay.
Woke.
Mike Foose says woke.
Come on.
Okay, we got 3 wokes and a Toke.
Come on.
That is a Toke. It is a weed shop.
Oh,
man.
Well-rooted is a weed shop.
Okay. Hey, I'm gonna tell you this. I was in Boova and I were in Minneapolis this past week, and like they're opening up after COVID. A lot of the shops in the Skyway in Minneapolis shut down, like the restaurants and stuff. And so there used to be a coffee shop called Max's Cafe, and some weed dispensary has set up shop in here. And like, you should have seen these lazy tokers trying to get open by 4:20. I was there on the morning of 4:20. Okay, they're not ready to go, but like, you should see them, like high as a kite, scrubbing walls, trying to set up
We
these.
gotta do it.
Trying to set up these shelves and stuff. Like, you could see it. You could see it and smell it. And they had these weird doors that looked like you were entering like a Transylvanian castle to get into this weed shop. But like, you could the panicked like contact high from these people for trying to get the store open on 4:20. It was very funny.
This is our big day.
We smell it from the building over, fellas.
Like, if you didn't do it, like, he was gonna ruin the whole thing.
It's our one day.
Do you want to
Looks
watch
like
reruns of the grand prize game from the Bonzo show?
What happened to the inventory?
Okay, sorry.
All right. Number 2. We're gonna start with Dan this time.
How are the points given?
I got it. Mike's up by 10 right now.
Yeah, Mike's keeping track, even though he was the only one who got. He was one of 3 who got
Run
it
your
wrong.
mouth. See what happens, Ben.
Yeah, this is a real secular Solomon situation where Mike keeps track of the points. That needs to stay.
Okay.
All right, number 2, the source. Dan, the source.
The source.
Woke or Toke?
That's Toke.
That's Toke. Okay. Nathaniel.
That's woke.
That's woke.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Woke. I'm sticking with woke.
Mike's in for
I-
woke.
I'm in with woke.
Okay. We got 3 wokes and a Toke this time. Exact opposite. The source is woke.
Yes.
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 0%.
Let's go.
I'm gonna submit right now. I love this game.
So far, see, I've never like had a drug in my life, and I'm not woke. So this is gonna be. I'm gonna fail.
This is real rough. You don't have any grounds to stand on here.
Stabbing in the
All,
dark.
all Dan knows is Christ crucified in this game.
Dan goes, unfamiliar. Toke.
Not certain. Woke. Number 3 to Nathaniel. The exchange. The exchange. Woke or Toke?
Come on.
That's got to be Toke.
The exchange. In for Toke. Mike.
I'm in for Toke as well.
Mike's in for a Toke.
Puff, puff, pass.
The
bid.
exchange. Ben. Woke or Toke?
I'm gonna go. Oh man, I'm gonna go out on a limb. I'm gonna say woke.
You're gonna say woke.
Yeah.
Ben's in for woke. Dan. The exchange. Woke or Toke?
I'm Toke.
You're a Toke?
Toke.
We got 3 Tokes and a woke again?
Come on.
This is ridiculous. The exchange? Woke.
Yes.
Oh, no.
I'm so good at
I'm
this.
How
consistent.
is that even possible?
3 wokes and a Toke, 3 Tokes and a woke, and 3 wokes and a Toke.
I don't even know what that means. What's that supposed to imply?
The exchange, I don't know. This is
You know,
by the
sin
way,
for
I did not
blood,
make
I don't
these
know.
names up. These are legitimate names that I have found.
I'm not saying that we don't need to refresh the name. Like I was traveling around in town yesterday and we passed the First Apostolic Church. I'm like, there's no way you're the First Apostolic Church.
You were the first.
That's bull. You're a pole building. It's unbelievable. Continue on.
All right. Are we starting with Nathaniel this time? Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. Number 4, the good doctor. The good doctor.
Oh.
Is that woke or Toke?
Good heavens.
Woke or toke, the good doctor.
I hope that's not woke. I have to go Toke on
You're
that
in
one.
for a toke for your own sanity.
Yeah.
All right.
Toke for me.
Toke, we got 2 tokes.
Toke.
3 tokes.
I'm
You gonna
gonna
break
go
the mold?
Toke. I'll go Toke.
4 tokes?
Yeah.
Oh, boys. 4 tokes in for the good doctor. You are all correct. Oh,
shit.
That is a toke. Your sanity is saved.
Woohoo! The exchange, though.
yeah. I tried to grab a couple thes because it really is whether or not, like, it could very easily be both on the exchange and the source. All right.
Yeah, like on the one hand, it feels like it could be referring to Jesus. Right. Right.
Is it
As
the good doctor, or you'd think
as
you're
the physician or
prescribing
whatever.
medicine?
Right. On the left hand, it could be a marijuana.
All right, number 5 to Mike.
That was funnier than you all acted,
Number 5 to Mike.
as I said.
Welcomed wellness.
What?
Welcomed wellness. Is that woke or is that toke?
Welcome wellness. Toke.
Welcome wellness is toke. Ben, you in for a toke or a woke?
Toke.
2 tokes. Dan, welcomed wellness.
Toke.
3 tokes.
Tokes, yeah.
I'll also go Toke.
4 tokes.
Yeah.
That is correct. Welcome wellness is a toke.
Nailed it.
Number 6 to Ben.
Yep.
The roots.
Oh no.
The roots. Is that woke or toke, Ben? The roots.
Oh, this one is difficult. I'm gonna go with woke.
Okay, he goes in for woke for the roots. Dan, the roots.
Isn't that
Weed shop or place for a dude wearing way too much denim?
I think it's the Tonight Show band, isn't it?
Yes, it is the roots. Well, he was on the
former
Roots. I
one.
don't know if-
Former. Okay, Roots. I'm gonna say that it is. I'm going to woke.
You're going woke, roots. We got 2 for woke.
I'll
Nathaniel?
go Toke.
Then goes toke on the roots.
Double down toke.
We got 2 tokes, 2 wokes.
Okay.
Oh, boys.
Okay.
All right. The
I don't
roots.
remember what I said.
The roots is a woke.
Oh, yeah.
It's a woke.
Oh man.
Yeah,
There
I
you
said that,
go.
didn't I?
It doesn't even make any sense.
We are the Roots Church.
At least, like, some people name their church like New Life Church. You're like, oh, I know what's going to happen.
Come
here.
on down to the roots.
I mean, even with a definite article like The Well, it's like, okay, I get that.
Yeah.
The Roots?
What does that
the
mean?
Roots.
It's just like carrots.
Yeah. YouTubers? What's happening?
Spuds.
All right. Where are we starting at this time? Who's 7?
Probably
Dan?
Dan.
Oh,
Back
Dan.
to Dan.
The High Road.
High road.
The High Road. Woke or toke?
Oh dear.
The High Road.
I'm gonna go with Toke.
Dan goes the toke on the High Road. Nathaniel,
I have a very strong feeling that it's Toke.
you think it's toke?
Yeah.
The High Road, toke.
Okay, if it's woke, we need to talk about some mixed messages here. I'm saying it's woke because I think people are that mistaken.
Mike's in for woke on the High Road. Ben, round it out. The High Road, woke or toke?
I'll take toke.
In for toke, huh?
Take a toke.
All right, fellas. The High Road is a woke.
Oh
No! Why?
Doggone
That
it.
was a dove triple bonus question. That was worth 1,200.
Oh boy, that was a rough one.
That broke my streak.
Oh.
I got broke by the high road.
We're gonna put that on a shirt like it's a food challenge. I got broke by the High Road in
Oh,
Tallahassee.
man.
You should have taken it. Should have taken the high road.
All right, Nathaniel, number 8. Higher ground.
Oh.
Higher ground. Woke or toke?
I mean, it's got to be Toke.
It's got to be toke.
It's got to be.
Oh, that's an all-in statement. All right.
When you
Mike.
say woke church, like, do they have any biblical basis at all?
Often no.
I mean, possibly no, possibly yes.
I feel like the Roots is a hair salon.
I mean, also the same situation with First Apostolic Church. Could be, could be not.
You're definitely not the first apostolic. I read the book of Acts recently. I'm on fire. And people are like, this is the first apostolic church? There's no way.
All right, Mike, higher ground. Woke or toke?
Toke.
Mike's in for toke
I'm
on
gonna
higher ground. Ben?
Yeah, I'm gonna take toke.
Toke on higher ground.
Yep.
Dan, higher ground. Woke or toke?
I'm going woke. Woke.
Dan goes woke on higher ground. That's a toke.
Oh.
Higher ground is toke.
Back to living.
Hey man, Dan just did like a.
Feel
He
lot
did a
better
real-
now
Oh, yeah.
About my answer.
He did a Panama Red over there.
Is that one of the marijuana cigarettes? Oh, this could be woke or toke or just a random nightclub. Number 9, Renew.
Oh yeah.
Renew.
Okay.
Is that woke or toke? I think we're on Mike.
Woke.
You say woke. Woke in for Renew. Ben?
Yeah. I'm with
Renew
woke.
for a woke. We
Woke.
got 2.
Yep.
Dan's nodding his head. Woke.
Definitely woke.
Woke.
Yeah.
Woke.
All 4 in for woke.
Mm-hmm.
Fellas, that's a woke.
Yeah. Yeah. That
Also
makes
could
sense.
be a nightclub in many places.
Or an oxygen bar.
Come on. Come on down to Renew, the new hookah bar. All right, last one, number 10.
Okay.
Ben.
Yep.
Vibe. Vibe.
Doggone
Is
it.
that woke or
I'm
toke?
going to be real mad. I think it's woke.
Ben goes for woke on vibe. Dan, do you know what a vibe is?
It's a Pontiac.
Why you say it like you work at the Phillips station?
Pontiac. What are you, a British uncle?
Would you like full
I believe-
service on your Pontiac?
I believe, sir, that you've had the Pontiac today. May I interest you in the Bentley or the Pontiac today?
Oh, no.
Dan, vibe. Is it a Pontiac or woke or toke?
It's a vibe. I'm going to go, it's woke.
Woke.
Yeah.
Dan's in for woke on the Pontiac vibe. Nathaniel, which would you say for the Pontiac vibe? Woke or toke?
Vibe.
It sounds toke the way you say it.
Bruh, are you gonna head down to vibe? I'm just telling you, man, like, it's 420. We've got to be at vibe today.
Yeah.
Or, hey, man, I really need Jesus in my life. Do you want to go down to vibe?
I think.
Don't sound right.
I think it's toke.
It's toke. You say toke for vibe. All right,
Toke,
Mike.
for sure.
Mike's in for toke on vibe. Fellas, vibe is a woke.
Yes.
Oh.
I
Daggum.
get the feeling.
All right,
Oh.
Mike. What are our scores on the first ever episode of Woke or Toke?
In last place was Nathaniel. He was -5. There was a
Oh,
couple,
boy.
There's a couple penalties that had to be let out.
You've been assessed penalties.
Ben came in third
This
with
is-
15.
This is manure.
Dan came up with an excellent bit of comedy, so he was in at 410.
Extra.
And then Mike's the winner.
Mike's the winner.
at 420.
Hey,
Woke or
I counted my fingers. I had 9 out of 10.
What?
9 out of 10, Mike.
Arrogance gets you deducted more points.
You didn't-
Nathaniel is now the third place winner.
Let's
You've
go!
been doing game shows with him for years. You should know this.
Listen here.
you
did
never
not.
fight the scorekeeper.
You did not know I was arrogant until after the scores were given out.
I smelled it on you. You had a vibe.
Whatever, sucker. Take your loss.
Come on down to the good doctor.
Vibe, though? That's a terrible name for a church.
Yeah, it really was. As I was looking through some of these, I was like, is this woke toke or like legit just a bar in like a downtown scene? Like, come on down. Like, you just need a verb or an adjective, anything. Like, literally, come down to nefarious. let's go out to like Shack. It's like, oh, this is a terrible name for a place. You guys want to go over to Vapor? It's like, I hate this. There's downtown bars called Tonic, and all. It's awful.
All right. Hey, let's maybe shoot us something on the complaint line. How did you do on Woke or Toke? 515-517-0085. All right, Mike, let's give out some advice.
Okay, dear live, from the past, I am marrying the most amazing man next year.
I'm not available.
I love when these start this way.
We have been together for 6 years. I've always gotten along with his family and know they will be great in-laws. However,
Yes.
as time goes by, I've noticed that they cater more and more to my fiance's older sister. She's nearly 30, but she acts like she's 13. When she has an argument with her spouse, she calls my fiance and makes it sound so dramatic that he drops everything and runs to her rescue. Invariably, it turns out not to be as bad as she was saying. She also talks so badly about her spouse to her parents that I feel embarrassed for him. If she's sick or home alone, her husband travels for work, she sleeps at her parents' house with her infant son instead of staying in her own home, which is a town away. Her family does, bold caps, everything for her. Things that a capable adult should do for herself. Many times my fiance and I have been on a date or spending time with each other, and then his sister calls and he leaves me to cater to her. It hurts my feelings when he does this. I know family is important, and I'm not saying he shouldn't help his sister. I've talked with him about this on multiple occasions, but he doesn't seem to understand or isn't interested in talking about it. Am I being unreasonable? Is there anything I can or should do to feel otherwise about it? How do I cope with my feelings about this?
I mean, I'm just proud of this person for not putting like the marriage up on the scale of like, should I marry them or not based off of their relationship with their sister?
Yeah.
It's just how should I feel about it?
Yeah.
And I appreciate that part.
It's unfortunate that she's asked a bunch of guys because I'm just going like it's just you're just a jealous, little.
Oh boy.
I mean,
Wow.
she's just a little petty girl fight, cat fight.
Sweet Moses.
I have
Boy,
nothing
Dan,
for
I
her.
could- I
Bit
just-
to get
I'm like,
through.
grow up.
I could not disagree with you more here.
Here's the deal. That family's weird and rough. And I think that comes from, like, if you're all living in the same zip code and, like, right next to each other at all times and aren't, like, satellite families that get together but do, like, everything together, it weirds me out.
Yeah.
I'm
Like
It's
all
just a real
families,
fight.
except for the last 100 years.
Yeah, I know lots of families that function super awesome that live
Right,
close
it-
to each other.
But this one isn't, is what I'm saying.
I
It's like
disagree with Boova 100% too.
Yeah,
Nathaniel, say something.
throw something
I
at
don't
me.
know.
I
I'm
don't
trying to think about this in my own life situation. It seems like this fella, one, maybe should not cater to his sister over and above his wife.
Boom.
Agreed.
And
They're not married yet.
You're okay, sure, okay.
That
okay.
ruins everything.
You've stopped him in his tracks.
I was on a roll, Mike. You know how I get.
I no longer have advice.
I don't disagree though.
But also, aside from that, like, I don't think she should really care that much if his parents like dote on her future sister-in-law.
Yeah, you're just
It's
a
like, what do you
jealous.
care? Like,
Yeah,
let
it's not like it's owed to you
Yeah.
and it's being missed out upon.
they're having a fun little family slumber party. What do you care? I mean, husband running out on a date to help his sister, that seems a little weird. If it's happening like a lot,
Yeah,
but
right.
like if one of my sisters called me and I was out with my wife, she would be understanding that I would have to go, do something. I think.
Why don't you
Yeah.
bring your girlfriend with you to take care of your sister.
Well, okay, so I don't think that's quite the scenario. This isn't happening a time. I think the
Yeah,
description
so if it's
is
happening a
happening
lot.
over and over
Right.
again. So like, if you've got someone who is constantly flying up false alarms,
She's a drama
Yeah.
queen.
right? So like the sister is super dramatic and like, but doesn't seem to have. This is where you get frustrated with people. Is that like there's a complete selfishness to being a drama queen, and like failing to recognize that like you called your brother out of a date with his wife. Now the brother didn't have to do it. He's responsible for his
Agreed.
own behavior.
Yeah, the family's
But
enabling like
but
crazy.
like but someone doing that basically goes, look, I'm way more important than you are. I don't care how I impact your life. I'm willing to go all drama department, and I don't care. I understand the frustration. I
Yeah, of
understand that
course,
frustration.
Sister's insanely selfish. And
Yes.
the family enables it, and it's turned into the brother enables it too.
Yeah, so here's what I would say. I
Yeah.
think this is a legitimate conversation with your soon-to-be husband about what it feels like to be on the other side. And I know it sounds like she's already had that. Now, if he's doing it because he's kind and he's being taken in by a dramatic sister, you just got to figure out whether you can live with that. I think you should learn to live with it. I think it's going to be difficult because it's going to come up continuously from someone who's super dramatic, and you're always going to feel hosed off about it. But like you have to, it's kind of like giving to a homeless person. Like even if it's not the wisest thing, you know that people who are doing it tend to be doing it with the right heart, and so yeah, I think you continue to work with this pseudo husband of yours, and just recognize, like, just know what it's probably going to keep happening going into it. I think the other point is that it's none of your business on the rest of the family stuff. It may not be the best thing, and maybe the maturity of your relationship allows you to continue to speak into that, but otherwise, I'd let that go directly.
Yeah, that's outside looking in. Just leave it at that.
Cut a trail.
Good trail.
Go to trail.
Secular says, what concerns me about your letter isn't that your fiancé goes running to his sister's side when he gets one of her emergency calls. What troubles me is that when you tell him something bothers you, he isn't interested in talking about it. If Sissy and her husband feel it's safer for her to spend nights with her parents when he travels and the parents welcome her, I see no reason why you should be critical of her for it. However, that your fiancé would cut short a date or some other activity you're involved in together strikes me as over the top if it isn't a true emergency. Sometimes those emergencies are hard to suss out, depending
they're
on who
difficult.
calls you.
Truth.
As I see it, you can either accept this as part of their family dynamic or rethink marrying into that family because they are not going to change. And once the parents pass on, Sissy may need her brother more than ever.
I think I'm surprised at the usage of sissy by secular, to be honest with you, because it feels condescending.
Yeah, weird.
But then also, like, I don't know if I'm so far as to say, like, this is ridiculous, don't do it, but, like, being a 30-plus-year-old person, getting sick, and then going and staying with your parents feels weird. Like, I can't imagine
She's
a situation.
married.
Right, married with a kid, like
Yeah.
an infant child. That means sick mom and infant child pack up in the car and go stay with mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, when she's sick.
Yeah.
I think
What?
both. I
That
think
is
both
weird.
these dudes need to tighten up on their job, right? Like one, the long
Travel
distance.
husband?
Yeah, the travel. Like here's the thing: is like, can you make a living traveling for work? Of course you can, right? Unless it negatively affects your family, and then you need to quit, and then you need to find a job that does not do that.
Yeah.
Some families can work that way, and some can't. And like, it's not a good or bad on the wife whether that can work or not, or good or bad on the
Right.
husband. It's just a fact, right? If your family can tolerate that, and it's a lifestyle that both parents can deal with, then yeah, that's fine. You can have a job that way. But if like your wife can't, it's not her fault. Well, I mean, it depends. But like most of the time, like your dynamic that you agreed to marry into,
Right.
like she didn't sign up to be a single parent her whole life. And if she's not one of those gals that can tolerate that, then you need to quit.
Yeah,
You
you
need
can't
to find
be
a job at
FaceTime
home.
dad if it doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. He's in a rough spot because he's probably over the drama. Right? The closer you are, the more you like the fifth time, sixth time someone's got an emergency in, 3 months and like it's never actually an emergency. They've like overplayed their hand about it. Like it's boy who cried wolf type of stuff. It's very difficult to discern real emergencies from people who treat emergencies like as if emergent things are happening all the time. Things that normal people are just like dealing with. And so like and then you don't know it puts people in a very rough position because like the time that you say, look, I'm not going to rush because this has never been a real emergency, there's always a risk that something big has happened and now you're the jerk who didn't go do the thing.
Right.
Okay? And so like that's why the brother's going to go but if the husband gets closer to that stuff, he starts to go, look, I've seen this a million times. I'm not doing it. So he's in a rough spot though because like what could be legitimate, which is he's spending too much time away from his home for his job, also may not actually be a problem at all, except for she's turning it into one, or he frankly just doesn't want to be around. No, he had a kid. He doesn't have a choice. He's gonna have to go try to fix this. But like, he's in a tough spot. I think you need to acknowledge he's in a tough spot.
Yeah, I agree. And as far as the husband is concerned, or the fiance, yeah, he's gonna have to get some boundaries set up. Like those things, like there can be reasonable interactions here, but like, you don't get to let someone else control your marriage, right? And so like, if you got to set up boundaries, you need to set them and you need to do it. And so like, you can always be on the hook for some emergencies if there's emergencies going around. But like, I've told people before, one of the things that's a nice boundary to put in place is like, you don't get my attention when you call, right? So like, you're always going to voicemail, or I don't have to look at your text message right away. That way, the emergency thing starts to float to the back. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to pick up the phone call in a panic every time you call if more than likely it's not an emergency. I'll listen to the voicemail, and then if I need to call you back, maybe I will. But like that's a fair boundary to set up for folks who do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Last one.
'Kay.
You're live from the path. I dated a dude long distance for 8 months. Whenever he was in my state for work, I'd go see him. 2 months ago, he suddenly ghosted me. 2 days prior to that, everything was fine. We texted and had a wonderful phone conversation. I'm at a loss. At first, I was sad about it, but now I'm angry. I want answers, which I know I probably won't get. What do you think happened?
Everything was not fine on that phone call or those text messages.
When
It is super easy to fake that.
when he was in my state, I went and saw him.
I mean, this could go from very innocent to very rough. Like, there's a chance you were not the only one, and you were just Indiana.
Yeah.
Like, you legit may have been saved in said phone as Ohio. Like, I'm just saying. It could be that things were going great, and then things just got rough, and it's way easier, especially for an out-of-state boyfriend, to just ghost and just go, like, whatever. If you meant something, I can't imagine what you would have to, like, not mean to somebody for them to just be like, okay, I'm never speaking to that person again. Bye. So the text message and the phone call that you think was great 2 days prior to the ghosting was not nearly as great as you think it was.
Yeah. The
Either
fact
that or maybe a new girlfriend or an old girlfriend popped back up that you never knew about.
your only connection with him is when he was in your state for work, you went and saw him.
Yeah.
That's
Not
See
like
Jerry for
fair.
a few months. Yeah, check
His
to see
wife
if he's got
found out.
multiple Facebooks. Yeah, right. There's a
Yeah.
wife found out he's got kids. Like, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, you just got done a great favor, friend.
You found each other on Tinder or farmersonly.com.
He done got.
Certainly.
Persian wife finder.
Do we have any other recommend? Like the question was, what do you think happened? Boova insists that Dan piles on and says The wife found out what was up, and now that's it. It's
Could
done.
be his sister has an emergency.
You here's the deal. Life sucks, and you were probably a travel fling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all it was.
Whether it's a wife, whether he moved on to somebody else in Indiana, either way, you're probably best. You're best to be rid of him and to keep yourself out of said situations going forward.
And here's the deal. Humanly, that sucks. Like if you thought something was there that just flat out wasn't, and then no closure whatsoever, it's just gone. That's awful,
Well,
and I'm sorry.
We could be really nice and say it was a work phone and he got fired, and so he doesn't have access to her number anymore.
Yeah, we can exist in that world if we want to.
Yeah.
Regardless,
good
it
about
still
that.
hurts. and
Actually, that's probably exactly the reasoning that got her in trouble, right? I feel like she had to have ignored, like, a bunch of facts.
Yeah.
Like, hey, maybe I could fly you out. You could come stay at my place or whatever, right? Like,
Right.
hey,
Yep.
we should I don't know, Zoom chat. I don't know, anything besides, hey, I text you a phone call once in a while, and then that's it. If I happen to come back, I might go visit you.
There's just so much gray area for some rough stuff to happen.
Yeah, it's
Regardless,
not.
I'm sorry that happened. I think that right now the closure you're looking for probably isn't going to happen, and so I think the thing that you should really do is figure out how to move on from here, build yourself up, grow yourself up, so that you're the better the next time that you're approached with a relationship.
And keep
How
in
long
mind, you might be a little naive.
How long did this went on?
8 months?
Yeah, 8
Yeah.
months.
That's quite a bit of time.
But 8 months traveling, like just showing up every couple of months, that's
Times a
nothing to
month,
do.
or yeah, how
Yeah,
often?
whenever he was in my state for work, I'd go see him.
Yeah,
Not
I mean,
he would come see me.
cut a trail.
Right. I'd go
true.
stay at the Motel 6 in Raleigh when he was there. Yeah.
That's a dump. Secular says, long
Motel
distance.
6 in Raleigh.
Long distance guy may have met another woman and ghosted you because he wasn't man enough to be upfront about it. Another possibility is that he was never available in the first place. This is why long distance relationships can be risky unless you know the person well, and why it's a safer bet to focus on someone local.
That's a weird thing.
Yeah.
That's a weird thing to like
Yeah.
focus on.
Yeah.
I hear people
Stay
say
in
that
zip code. It's less likely
all
to
the
get
time.
cheated on.
All the time in the bar. Hey man, I'm attracted to you. Are you local?
Yeah. Where do you reside? If I were to try to call your phone, what would be the area code?
All right, you're listening to Live from the
Zip
Path.
codes.
Hey, thanks for hanging out with us on show 500 and a half. Very much appreciate you. No joke. Thank you guys so much for listening to Live from the Path. We really, really do appreciate it. And so, yep, just thank you. If you got anything for us regarding the show, make sure you hit up that complaint line, 515-517-0085. Call or text. We would love to hear from you. And we hope to see you next week on a legit full-numbered show, hopefully 501.
I think the Sober Soldier's coming in.
Okay, sweet. It'd be
Hey-o.
good to have them back.
Oh,
Yeah.
Right on. All right. In the meantime,
Alright.
be faithful in the means. God will handle the ends. You've been listening to Live from the Path.